Alabama's news leader. WHNT News 19 at 6 starts now.
A Huntsville police officer charged with murder after making a split-second decision.
A decision in a nightmare scenario, the likes of which most people will never, ever experience.
It started as a 911 call from Jeffrey Lewis Parker saying he was suicidal.
We had great concern about what occurred there in the house.
There are two sides to everything, and don't make a decision about this until you hear Officer Darby's side of it.
Tonight, our team of investigative reporters, they're digging through the case. WHNT News 19 at 6 starts now. A Huntsville police officer charged with murder for his part in a deadly shooting back in April. Good evening, everyone. I'm Greg Screws. Clarissa McLean with the evening off. We begin with an update on the big breaking news we first broke with a push alert just after noon. Sheriff's deputies booked Officer William Benjamin Darby into the Madison County Jail on a murder charge, and minutes later he walked out posting a $20,000 bond. After doing that, a Madison County grand jury indicted Officer Darby in the shooting death of 49-year-old Jeffrey Lewis Parker at his home on Doremus Avenue. Authorities told us at the time that Parker called 911 and told them he was suicidal. We begin our team coverage with WHNT News 19's investigative reporter Chelsea Brinsel. So Chelsea, the Madison County District Attorney, he characterized this as concerning.
Yeah, he characterized the evidence as concerning, Greg. Madison County District Attorney Rob Broussard says the concern over the deadly shooting began as the Huntsville Police Department did its review following the April incident. Broussard says the evidence against Officer William Darby is complete and thorough. A grand jury indicted Officer Darby on a murder charge. The grand jury returning an indictment means the group believed the evidence showed that Officer Darby had the intent to kill Jeffrey Parker. I asked the district attorney if he was concerned that the Huntsville Police Department Incident Review Board cleared Darby of wrongdoing in May. Here's how he responded.
Incident Review Board, they do whatever they do over there as far as internal policies, and really our focus is strictly on the law of the state of Alabama, and we are duty bound to follow that process for all citizens, whether you're a police officer or you're not.
But Huntsville Mayor Tommy Battle sees it differently. Battle released a statement after the announcement of the indictment, expressing support for Darby. Battle says, quote, "Our hearts and sympathies are with the Parker family as they are forced to relive this time of loss. And to Officer Darby, you have our full support. As a valued and responsible member of our force, he acted in accordance with his training. Please accord him the same presumption of innocence as all Americans are entitled." So, as you can see, those two statements, there's a difference in the city and the district attorney's office. There's an opposition in this case. Darby is working for the department, but he was relieved from his police officer duties. A spokesman for the Huntsville Police Department tells us Darby never went back to patrol duty after the April 3rd shooting. In the newsroom, Chelsea Brensel, WHNT News 19.
So as we've mentioned, this all started when Huntsville police got a call of a possible suicidal person on Doremus Avenue in April of this year. And when officers got there, they say they found Jeffrey Lewis Parker inside with a gun to his head. After several attempts to get Parker to drop that gun, police say Darby shot and killed him. WHNT News 19's investigative reporter Courtney Crown joins us live from the police department. So Courtney, what else do we know about the timeline of these events?
Well, I'll tell you, everybody, just weeks after that shooting, the Incident Review Board met to determine whether Officer Darby's actions were justified and whether they lined up with the department's standards for policy and training. Now, the shooting that we are talking about happened on April the 3rd around 4:25 in the afternoon. Then, on May the 8th, the results of that Incident Review Board were released by HPD. That review found that all the officers involved, including Darby, acted within the department's policies, procedures, and training. Representatives from the Madison County District Attorney's Office, Huntsville City Legal, the HPD training staff, and members of the Huntsville Citizens Advisory Council were all present. Then, according to court documents, a grand jury was assembled to review the case on July the 3rd. And then today, exactly 1 month later, Darby was indicted and charged for Parker's death. Now, Huntsville Police, they actually had a news conference right outside of the department earlier today when the message that they sent to everyone who was listening in was they are standing behind Officer Darby 100%, and I quote, "Officer Darby is not a murderer," end quote. That's from Chief Mark McMurray. They say the police are standing behind their officer 100%.
His training through the Huntsville Police Department allowed him and his fellow officers to survive as he rushed bravely, without hesitation, into one of the most volatile and unpredictable situations a police officer may ever encounter. Officer Darby performed his duties in accordance with his training, and he is in our support at this time.
Now, what we know, according to these court documents, is that Officer Darby has a hearing on September the 14th. He has a second hearing on October the 5th, and his trial date is now set for October 29th. Live outside the Huntsville Police Department, Courtney Crown, WHNT News 19.
Veteran defense attorney Robert Tootin, a former police officer, is representing Officer William Darby. Tootin says an indictment is just a step in the legal process and not proof of anything. And he spoke exclusively to WHNT News 19 investigative reporter Brian Lawson today.
Defense attorney Robert Tootin said William Darby has been a Huntsville Police Department officer for 2 years, and a good one. He didn't see an arrest coming.
Well, I think he's obviously concerned and probably confused over why this has happened.
Tootin said Darby's story hasn't been told.
Officer Darby did not testify at this grand jury, so they did not hear his side.
DA Rob Broussard said the grand jury reviewed officers' body cam footage and read their statements. Tootin says a first-hand account will be different.
About what he saw and what he felt and his reasonings and mental processes as far as why he pulled the trigger.
Jeffrey Parker told dispatchers he was suicidal and that he had a gun.
Of course, we're just starting our investigation of this matter at this point, but it would appear that this might be what we hear talk about sometimes as suicide by cop.
Tootin is no stranger to controversial cases involving police officers. He defended Madison police officer Eric Parker in his excessive force trial. Stop! What do you want the public to consider right now that you feel like is relevant to what's happening going forward?
That there are two sides to everything, and don't make a decision about this until you hear Officer Darby's side of it.
Brian Lawson, WHNT News 19.
So the case moved quickly today. Darby already has a trial date set for October 29th of this year. WHNT News 19, the first to break this story and bring you the details live and provide you with perspective. Be sure that you have the WHNT News 19 app.